Welcome, dear all. I welcome you to the technical seminar on Terra and aquasensor applications in environmental engineering. Today we have with us Dr. V.B. Sundarabalan, who is going to give this presentation. We also have all our faculties and student members. I hand over now to Dr. Nidhi Dasan, Program Director of our department. Sir, can you please go on with the welcome address?
Sundarabalan?
Dr. Sundarabalan is available.
Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay, so yeah, I think I will go again with the introduction of our guest for the day. Dr. Sundarabalan received his BE in Electronics and Communication Engineering and Masters in the same discipline from Anna University College of Engineering, Guindy. He went on to finish his PhD in the area of ocean satellite remote sensing in Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, in the year 2015. He is then did pre-doctoral fellowship award in IIT in the year 2015, followed by completing a postdoctoral fellowship in Laboratory of Oceanology and Geoscience at ULCO, France in the year 2016. He has also worked as a research scientist at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, Maryland, USA. To his credit, he has several national and international journals in a very highly reputed publications list. And Dr. Sundarabalan is currently serving as the Director of Geosensing and Imaging Consultancy, Trivandrum. We welcome you, sir, and I'll hand over the dais to you to continue with your lecture. We are happy to have you here, sir. Thank you so much.
So hi everyone. Good afternoon. Very good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I thanks to Dr. Vidya for introducing me and give some nice background about me. And thanks for Dr. Nidhi Dasan and Dr. Tolkapin for arranging this one. And also thanks to the Savita College of Engineering Management and Civil Department, all the faculties. And thank you all. Welcome all for this presentation, who are participating in this presentation. First, I'm going to explain. So I'll share the slide now. So say hi. So able to see the slide? Hi. So able to see the slide now with Dr. Vidya ma'am? Hello.
So yeah. Can you make it as full screen, sir?
Yeah, it's in full screen. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So there are a lot of sensors mounted in the satellite, and they are launched into the space and by several organizations like ISRO, NASA, several other for the other countries also, like Korean Ocean Research Center, Korean Space Research Center, Japanese Space, Canadian Space. A lot of space agencies are there. They are launching several number of satellites. Everyone, like India, there are a lot of satellites. We are also launching several satellites. You can see the Chandrayaan, LIS-3 or sat like that, Cartosat. So a lot of satellites we are launching. So like that, there are some satellites application for Terra and Aqua monitoring. So there are satellites for Aqua and Terra monitoring. So one satellite is like specifically they are designing to monitor the environmental engineering purpose. Environmental monitoring means so changes in the water column, changes in the land use, land cover. So a lot of changes are happening in the over the world everywhere. Every day there will be small changes. So yeah, these each things we can monitor from the satellite. So for that purpose, the space agencies like ISRO, NASA, all space agencies launched Terra sensors and Aqua sensors for monitoring the environment. So why we want in why these sensors are important for this environmental monitoring? So you can see there are this is one of the lake called Lake Gaston, and this is Lake Erie. So you can see what is the color of this water. So nearby there are a lot of people living here. So how this area are affected with the water column, and how they are what type of water they are drinking. Can you just remember that one? So if you think that one, so these things, this the monitoring of these water bodies are necessary for change monitoring the environmental changes. So we need a satellite for whatever purpose. These are like these are like lake, but these are like a big lake like ocean. So even the waves also, you can see the waves like ocean waves. It's creating the waves like ocean, but these are lakes, inland water bodies. So these things, in ocean also, you can see in the top image, it's a global image. There are a lot of changes in the color, maybe in the so blue color shows the clear water, and other color shows like chlorophyll dominated waters. The chlorophyll dominated waters means there will be some blooms also there, means toxic bloom. The fish, if you eat the fish which are living in those areas, so we will affected by the cancer or other disease whenever we eat. So the satellite for these things are important. So we will look into that in so I will take you all to this presentation for so how we are monitoring the Terra and Aqua from the space. So why we study the ocean? So there are 75% of the earth is covered by the ocean, and the earth climate, earth's environment or earth's climate is maintained by entirely maintained by the earth's oxygen balance. So this oxygen, how we are getting the oxygen? So maybe a lot of trees, plants like that. You can see cherry plants, seagrass, everything is there. So they have playing the major role in maintaining the earth oxygen balance. So there is resources unexplored, and we can't go to the ocean to measure the changes in the chlorophyll or other parameters. So we need to understand the valuable resources. So we are going for the ocean color remote sensing. So this type of monitoring the water from the surface is called ocean color remote sensing or aquatic color remote sensing. If you are monitoring the water from the for inland water, we can name it as aquatic color, or ocean means ocean color remote sensing. There are also called land color remote sensing. So these things are coming into the picture. So why we so what is the major background of this ocean color remote sensing is optical oceanography or optical remote sensing. So we can call it as biogeo optics, ocean color remote sensing, radiative transfer theory. All these things are coming into the picture to in order to understand or in order to run the show of ocean color remote sensing. So there are a lot of instrument design, those things come into the picture. So I worked with the different organizations like ISRO for algorithm development of detection of harmful algal blooms, and for DRDO modeling of underwater light field parameters like visibility of ocean and open and coastal waters. For GOSI, we inversion of optical remote sensing process in optical properties we inverted from the remote sensing parameters. For IOCCG is the major community. We are so the ocean color or aquatic color remote sensing plays it's generate those people made a small community for the youngsters who can join there and make their research. So for this purpose, for me, I worked in the IOCGS atmospheric correction algorithms, and for USGS, USGS is the one of the major organization which is working for the land and ocean or aquatic changes monitoring. So those Landsat is playing the major role in the USGS. So I worked in the water quality monitoring for inland and coastal waters in USGS. For ESA, I worked as atmospheric correction techniques for Sentinel and Landsat. So how this light transfer from the atmosphere to ocean? So So there are so when then the light comes from the so ED is the downloading radiance, which is a sunlight. The light emitted from the sun is called the ED, downloading radiance. It reaches the sea surface or water surface. So if it is a land, we don't have to care about that because the entire reflectance are captured by the satellite. So entire reflectance from the land are captured by the satellites. We don't have to worry about what is scattering or absorption or any other parameters in this land. But when we are going for the ocean, we want to consider the below water parameters. Then only so because a lot of lights will be absorbed at each layer, and then it finally reaches the bottom and it goes back to the surface, and finally it's called by the satellite as, and it will make a small images based on the satellite resolution sensors. So at the air water interface, there will be some transmittance and transmittance and reflectance will take place. So we know there is a Snell's law placing a major role in this role. We've already studied maybe in the 12th. We have gone through the Snell's law. So those things are coming to the picture in the surface, sea surface, and then water column. There will be the changes in the CDAS, chlorophyll, sedum, and sediments. Sediments concentrations will be varies. But we have to consider those parameters also. Finally, phase function. So what is phase function means? It's an angular dependency, dependency of the light field. So that is called phase function. And so this phase function is the major parameter, involves the optical characteristics of the underwater light field. So finally it reaches the seabed. We have different parameters in the seabed, dark sediments, green algae, red algae. So those things will be play other role. So when it depends on the sediment characteristics, it goes to the surface. So from the satellite we can make an image for the surface and underwater light field at each depth also, and also we can map the bottom. So how we can map the bottom, bathymetry and other seagrass parameters, coral reef, those things we can do from these satellite images. So there are two types of optical properties coming to this picture: inherent optical properties and apparent optical properties. So apparent optical properties means the light which depends on so it depends on the source and the medium where it's the light hits. So that is called apparent optical properties. So when it hits the object, so we don't it will consider both characteristics of light, the characteristics of light and the characteristics of the medium. Both are dependent by AOP, but IOP is depends on only the optical parameter and the object. The means if it is a sediment, how the how is the characteristics of the absorption in for the sediment, and what is the characteristics of scattering for the sediments, like that. So there are a lot of satellite ocean color missions. This is one of the satellite called Landsat. So how it's monitoring the water. So today we are seeing how it's monitoring the land surface and how it's monitoring the ocean water column. So there are different satellites launched in 1978 by NASA. They launched an CZCS, Coastal Zone Color Scanner, and in 1997 they CWIPS is another satellite, and OCMB launched in 1999. So then 2002 the MARIS satellite was launched by Europe, and then in 1999. So these satellites end on this stage, but after that again still now in the ocean. So for aqua and terra monitoring, we have other satellites like 1999, and so NASA have Modis Terra, Modis Aqua, and ISRO have OCM2, and NOAA have OVS, and ESA have OLCA. So these are now these data we have in the space, from we are receiving from the space to monitoring the ocean and aqua terra process. And currently, so in 2021, we are expecting OCM3 from the ISRO, and OCM 2022, we are expecting another satellite phase from the NASA. So these are 5 resolution sensors we are expecting for monitoring the terra and oceans. So why we need these things? So did you see these images which are captured from the China water coastal area? So if we are going, and so people will used to go with their family, and they will play with the kids in the ocean, coastal waters. They will enjoy the water, how the water breaks and reaches the sea, water coastal zone. But here how they will enjoy. So here you can see that there are a lot of blooms, like so green blooms, so thick mat of blooms, so they are not able to enjoy. So And this also the fishes. Can you if you can you think that how these fishes will how we can eat these type of fishes which are living in these zones? So these are major problem in this area. So how we can monitor? We can monitor from the satellite, and we can try to ask people how these blooms are generating, where is the source of generating the blooms. So those things we can track, and we can give the public awareness, and those things we can do from the satellite images. So this is another type of images like Carina brevis. So this is land and this is the water. So these are like bloom. It's a thick bloom. This is very toxic bloom, and this is another bloom like Alexandrium blooms in the often main coast in the US, east coast of US. And this is from Nautica centillion, and this is from Nautica centillion in Bohai Sea. And finally, this is another type of bloom, like it's a tricky bloom, and it will shine only in the night time. This bloom is very nice when you are walking in the night with your family or some your friends, but this is also very toxic. So how we can do this? Arctic waters, and then also there is some data from New Zealand and China and Korea, India also we got some data set. So what are the instruments we are using? There are a lot of like above water radiometer instrument for measuring the light, and this is below water radiometer instrument for measuring the light. And these instruments we got from Trios. And the other one, so how we are mounting the satellite images about for sensors for above water. So we made a mount, and so we can keep here also sensor, but we in order to avoid the shadow of the ship, so we extended from the ship by the platform. And again, then another below water sensor we made here, and we made a setup here and mounted in the setup. And then we are through the winch, and we are deploying the sensors. And then this is the cable to collect the data set. So this is like another photometer sensors which gives absorption, scattering, and attenuation. So this is only for the below water measurements. And so this is heavy weight. So you may heard about the CTD bathymeter measurement. So bathymetric measurements, those things we are doing this with these sensors. So this is the exact setup of our field measurements. We will check the data set, and we will. This is another type of thing. We will collect the data, water sample from each depth. So this is like a skin bottle. So when we are making some, if you want water at the intermediate depth, we have some feature to collect the data, water for the intermediate depth also, or bottom also we can collect. So these are the data set we are using, and why what are the main data set we are using, or extracting, or radiometric data means radiance, irradiance, reflectance. Those data set we are collecting. And photometer means attenuation, scattering, and absorption. Backscattering is like optical parameters, but they are the main parameters playing the major role in this image processing. And finally, the chlorophyll and suspended sediment and IOP parameters we will collect from the water sample. So when we are measuring the reflectance in the field, we will get different types of patterns. So this is the major reflectance parameter. So this is the wavelength from 400 to 700, and we will call it as spectrum, RRS spectrum, the remote sensing reflectance spectrum. R means reflectance. This is remote sensing. So for the clear water, we have a peak at 490 nanometer. And but when the water types may changes, relative clear, it slowly shifts, and in the relatively turbid water, it slowly shifts to 550. And then 50 nanometer, 560, it goes to 560, and then there will be some another peak from the phytoplankton or chlorophyll absorption. So that because of that purpose, because of that scenario, we got another peak here. This is due to the emission or fluorescence emissions. We'll call it as fluorescence emission. And another for bloom dominated waters, we will get another type of spectrum with the shifted peak in the secondary peak is entirely shifted to the 750 nanometer. That one you can see here. So how we are calculating the RRS? So we explain. So I showed in another the first slide, I think. So ED is the first main data, which is the incoming data to the water surface, and the LW is the outgoing data. So if you take the output by input, then we will get the RRS like LW by ED. That is RRS. So RRS can be also related to the so we also showed that the photometric parameters are very closely matches with the medium. So the medium parameters are backscattering and absorption. So we can relate that photometric parameters and the radiometric parameters and photometric parameters with the ratio of BB AP. So each absorption, this is absorption. So the absorption means, so if you check the absorption, we can consider it as phytoplankton absorption, CDOM absorption, and water absorption, pure water absorption. So those things will come into the picture. So particulate absorption means there will be some sediment absorption. This is like AD means sediment, and this is chlorophyll. So if you take the ratio of chlorophyll, if you want to ratio, not ratio of the ratio, so we have the spectrum of RRS for different waters. So if you take the ratio of RRS between two bands, we will get the chlorophyll. So, but the selection of band is important. So we selected here 488 and 547, and then we got some, we trained the model and we got some relationship to estimate the chlorophyll. So like that same thing we have, we trained for the turbid waters. This is for inland waters and this is for coastal and ocean waters. So both the things we got a good relation, and then we validated here with the in situ data. In situ means field collected data. So similar to chlorophyll, we also made another relationship with the sediments, suspended sediments, and that also we got some good relation, and we validated that data here. So from the surface chlorophyll and sediment, we can extrapolate, extend the data to the bottom of the sea floor. This is if you consider this is the sea floor, so how we can extend the surface chlorophyll to the bottom. So there will be a pattern. The chlorophyll, actually the chlorophyll is have some similar pattern. If there is high chlorophyll or minimum chlorophyll, there will be some euphotic zone. What is euphotic zone? The light, how much light, maximum light penetrated at that depth. That is euphotic zone. So the maximum light, how much penetrate to that depth is have high chlorophyll content. So that chlorophyll we measured, and we trained the model, and we got some three relationship for different range of chlorophyll data. So then then based on this, we can simulate the underwater light field because we have got the environment of the water type. Similar to chlorophyll, we also extrapolate the suspended sediment matter. So that one we considered here, and by the ratio and power equation, we consider the suspended sediment concentration of suspended particles matter. So based on this chlorophyll model, we have a satellite image. We applied to the RRS. So we got satellite image with the RRS data. So we got the RRS remote sensing reflectance images. And so from for those images, we applied our model, and we got the relation and for the chlorophyll, and then we got the images. The final images will be like this for the Arabian Sea. This is Arabian Sea, highly dominated with the lot of different types of blooms. So I shown there. So those type of blooms are occupied here. So because a lot of industries are in Oman, these coastal areas, and here in India, Mumbai also, Gujarat, Mumbai also here. So the blooms are occupied here, and so one thing we can note that we can, based on the blooms, if you find some blooms, we can see how much eddies are created there. So when there is some eddies or current, how ocean currents, we can monitor based on this chlorophyll variation, and we can also calculate the chlorophyll concentration from the space. So this is the global image for the 2008 image, and we can see that chlorophylls are highly dominated here. So more than that, here also this portion also highly dominated. Even in the coastal zone, people are living near to the coastal area, so the coastal zones are highly dominated with the chlorophyll content. So how the lights? So as I told you, that light penetrated in the surface, sea surface, and when entered into sea surface, there will be some transmission and reflectance. So based on the Snell's law, we estimated the transmitted light. So there will be loss of absorption and scattering. So C is the attenuation. So attenuation means sum of absorption and scattering. So attenuation means loss of light. So we are subtracting the light with the incoming radiation, and there will be some gain of light due to the phase function between. So means the phase function means the light from the infinite direction. So there the light from the adjacent direction is we estimated based on the absorption and scattering, but from the infinite direction we can estimate through the phase function. That is here we are adding those light, and there will be some source of light. We saw some images that they are generating the blooms are generating self light. So those images those lights are called a source function. So that light is depends on the chlorophyll. So we added that light also. So finally, the equation will be like this. This is the radiative transfer equation, which is used to model the light transmission from the surface of sea to bottom of the water. So here, this is like Chennai Harbor water. Chennai Harbor water. So we went to the field and measured the reflectance. Reflectance means ED we measured. ED means downloading irradiance. Different types of irradiance we measured. Upwelling irradiance and another upwelling irradiance also we measured. So we simulated. The black is the measured one, and blue is the. So here blue is the predicted one, and the orange color is the modeled one. So we modeled. So the based on the field data set, we modeled the data, modeled the spectrum. So the spectrum is almost matching with the field data set. So the predicted data is like almost we captured the from the satellite data. We got the, the predicted spectrum, and then we matched with this in situ data set. So this is just for the validation purpose, but we have the prediction of different parameters also involved. So but we gave some parameters are missing in our model, so we got some variation in the results. So based on these underwater light field parameters, we can use for the Navy applications and coral reef seagraph mapping from through the remote sensing. So understanding the heat budget, the climate, everything we can do from the underwater light field simulation and the data set. So there will be some homogeneous light field, which is called diffuse TAM, and the diffuse TAM is like the light which absorbs. As I told you, the phase function. So light receives from the infinite direction is called diffuse TAM or homogeneous TAM. So, but in direct TAM, where the light is received from the just above the surface. So so now coming to the inland waters. Now before that, so we saw the coastal waters, and then we saw underwater light field parameters. Then now we are going to the inland waters. So why we want to that? How we are monitoring? So in 2018, you can see that Pular Lake in Chennai. You know, you heard about the Pular Lake. So there is water column. So entire lake is filled with water in 2018 May, but in 2019 June, so almost like 1 year after, we got another satellite image. You can see how much the water is there. So this type of monitoring is necessary for inland water also. So we need satellites for that. So for instead of that, so what type of satellites are launching for the inland waters? So before that, we saw is like ocean waters, and now inland. And so the inland water satellites are also useful for terra data monitoring. So there are two inland water satellites are there. One is Landsat and another one is Sentinel. The Landsat is launched by US, and the Sentinel is launched by ESA. We have satellite, but so I didn't incorporate it here. So Landsat 1 is launched in 1972, and 78 till 78 it was there, and it's died in 78. And in Landsat 2 in 82, and Landsat 3 expired in 83, and Landsat 4 is in 82 to 93. So we have done Landsat 6 is there. It was while launching itself there is an issue, so it's got failure. And Landsat 7 is working till now. So Landsat 5 is from 1984 to 2003. So we have 1983 to 84 to 2013, almost 30 years data we have from the Landsat 5, and the Landsat 7 1992 to till now we have 1999 to till 2020 we have Landsat 7 data. The only issue in this there is so while launching we have a satellite, we have a camera, so there will be two types of camera in the satellite. So each camera will capture there is a mirror in the satellite, Landsat 7 satellite. So when after launching the satellite, so after 4 years there is one of the mirror got failed, so there will be some tricky lines go in the Landsat 7 images. And the Landsat 8 is launched in 2013 and Landsat 9 launched in going to launch. So now the pre-launch calibration work is going on. 20 or 21 we will get the Landsat 9 image. So now currently, how many satellites are passing above our? If I am standing in a location in Chennai, so above my location, we will there will be three satellites are going on. So Landsat 8, Sentinel 2A, and Sentinel 2B. So these three satellites, this comes 7 days once, and this comes 5 days once, and this comes 5 days once. So approximately every 3 days once we have an images Landsat 8, Sentinel 2, and Sentinel 2B. So if you get Landsat 9 and Sentinel 2C from 2021, we will get every day we will get an images almost. So recurrently we will get, and so we can monitor every lakes, and we can monitor every agricultural land facilities, everything we can do if we get another two satellite. So now also we are monitoring with these three satellite. So we want before checking, we want to check the consistency of the three satellites. We are checking now. So how we are calibrating the satellite. So we are the satellite is launched in the some 800 kilometer away from the Earth surface. So how we can calibrate? So we will get the satellite images first, and then we remove all the atmospheric correction parameters, all the atmospheric parameters. So we have to get the clear image, and then we remove all the atmospheric correction parameters, atmospheric error or atmospheric noise parameters. Then we will match with the field data set, and then what is the difference, and how then we will calibrate those with the that is we can calibrate gain, estimate the gain values, and or error values. Those things we can estimate from those matchup data set, and then we can validate with the Aeronet data set. So what is Aeronet? Aeronet is there are a lot of field, there are a lot of instrument launched near to the coastal area. It keeps monitoring that water surface and collecting the data and send to the website. It's automatic process. So every day we can collect those data sets, and after that the gain value is applied to the satellite images, and again then we can validate with the satellite Aeronet data. So like that, so now one data we calibrated, and other Sentinel 2B also we calibrated, and all five satellites we calibrated. So all five calibrated. So now we can check the consistency of the all six atmospheric satellite sensors, all five. So why we want to see the consistency? Then only we can match today image and tomorrow image or same, like that. If there is the satellites are same, if the satellites are calibrated with the same type of data, then we can match it. Today the lake is like this. Some, if there is tomorrow some changes in the lake, then we can estimate directly, oh there is a change. Or if the calibration, if there is an issue in the calibration parameters, we can think that there is a problem in the satellite, because the calibration parameter is wrong. So so that is for that purpose we are checking the consistency of the aquatic products. So this is another MOBI instrument. MOBI and Bosal instruments are used for the calibration purpose, and Aeronet data is used for the validation purpose. This is the type of sensor launched in the coastal waters. So some people will go and collect. It's a tricky job to if there is some mistakes or anything happens, they have to go swim and check the sensor performance. So how we without calibration parameters, you can check that you can see here there are a lot of negative values in the satellite data. This is MSI. MSI means Sentinel 2A data. So there are 4 bands are shown here. So they are like negative values. So after the calibration with gain values, so we estimated after gain values after the calibration, and then after applying, we got the positive data set and almost like matching with the field measure data set. We applied for satellite images. We can see that the images are like nicely plotted in the good way, and the coastal water zones or the even river also easily able to identify in the images. So same like that, we cross calibrate Modis Aqua. So Modis Aqua is the ocean waters, ocean aqua, Modis Aqua data and Landsat 5 data. This is Modis Terra and Landsat 7. So we cross checked with the other sensors and they are almost matching with the Landsat 7 and 5 sensors. So you can see almost like 3 bands are almost matching each other. So there are some problem here because of there may be some atmospheric interference because two satellites are in different angles. So we didn't consider those angles. So that may be the problem here. But almost like better. It's a better good. Instead of getting nothing, we got some data set matching consistency with the other satellite. So we applied for the calibration data set to the this is a San Francisco Bay, North San Francisco Bay. We applied for to apply to Landsat 5, Landsat 7, and Landsat 8 sensors. So this is like 3 different bands, and we applied this one. This is Landsat 5. So you can check that all these 3 sensors are not launched in the same date. So they are launched in. So this is launched in 1984, 1999. 1984, and this is launched in 1999, and then this is launched in 2013. The technology is entirely different, but we got almost like good images after the calibration and the consistency checked from 3 different sensors. So you can see the lines due to this line only I mentioned before, due to the problems in the mirror in the Landsat 7 image. After 4 years, the mirror got failed. So because of that, we are getting small spikes in the images. So like that, we checked with the consistency of Sentinel and Landsat. So the current satellites like Sentinel and Landsat. So we got some good matchup within the data is going along with the both trends are going same in the. So you can see both like blue and red or the star means like OLI and the MSI. So when they came together, so sometimes both satellites capture the images on the same day. So that images are called mentioned here as a star. So you can see the star is sitting above. So some changes in the this data set only, maybe due to the noise or small changes in the rainfall, there will be some changes in the data set like that. So similar kind of observation we also made in the San Francisco Bay. So this bay only I mentioned before. So this is the northern bay and this is the southern bay, and this is the point where we used for matching the data. So we got some good results. So this data is like we didn't see this is the inland water body. There may not be any disturbance. So we got same trend almost like both data is going on. But here the inland tide is there. There are a lot of water coming from the coastal, and it pulls different changes will be there. So due to that changes, the data is scattered here. But we got the same for same day image. If you see, the data is almost matching with it together. So another model we recently worked with remote sensing of suspended sediment parameter estimation. So we used here the sorry. There are a lot of there is some less number of models for the suspended sediment retrieval. So for the inland waters and the coastal waters also. So we classified the spectrum, aurora spectrum, into 3 different types, and one is like type 1 waters like blue green, like clear water, and then green water is like a bloom water, and brown water is like a sediment dominated water. So using these scenarios, like the based on the spectral characteristics, we have only 4 bands. So Landsat have only 4 bands in the visible region. So we use only 4 bands, and we classified the water into 3 different types, and each type is considered as different different waters. So then we model those data set. We applied for the machine learning techniques. So here some issues. Okay, nothing. So we applied the machine learning technique here. Neural network is applied. Sorry. Yeah. Here. So here we applied the machine learning technique. Here RRS is given as the input to the neural network section. There are a lot of hidden layers, and then we used so this is like a mixed density network we generated, and then based on the mean standard deviation values of these RRS, and then we consider the combined function, and we estimated the BBP. BBP is the inherent optical water parameter. This is the apparent water optical parameters. So we have estimated the BBP from RRS. So we validated those data set and using for 3 different parameters. So ours only the new one is like black color, which is better than other two models. So now we combined. So from the BBP we estimated the TSS. TSS means RRS. TSS means suspended sediment. So that TSS is validated with the different current models. So this is a model which launched in 2014 for so that is like scattered in the upper layer, means after 1000. So after 100 the values get saturated. So means like, so after 100 means, so since we are working for the inland waters, there will be we are checking for lake, we are checking for river. So those two water bodies we are checking, and coastal waters also have some high suspended sediment water column we are checking. So in for those purpose, we with the sediment values are above this 100 to almost reaches 1000. So we have to consider above this scenario also. So if you see all the other models, these 3 models are failed at this scenario. And then here is another one model. It works well, but it's scattered above this region. And this is NOAA model, and this is working well, and similar type of results we also got, but better than this NOAA model. So finally we got some good model for 3 different water types: clear water, this is green water, and this is the red color water. So we tested for the Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake Bay means this is the east coast of the US, and which is very close to the ocean. A lot of waters from the coastal water comes inside till this region, and it goes away during the tidal zone. And then during the rainy season, there are a lot of river sources are there. Those comes to this. Those water come and then come and reaches this Chesapeake Bay zone. So we applied the standard model in 2010. That is a standard model. All the people are using currently that is a standard model. We applied for different dates to the sentinel images. So the result shows that the value waters are like almost 20 25 like that. The water, the 30 means almost like 35 is the value of sediments here. But if you see the dates, they are like almost rainy season. So there will be a lot of sediments coming into that zone. So this is like a highly overestimated water. This is like Androsuk, and Nishad is here. This is the Androsuk. This water is they're like I overestimated the data points. So we saw the overestimated values here for all the dates, and but when you apply our model, so a new model, we can see that the entire values are different, and the values are exactly matching with the in between the standard model and the overestimated model. So as we shown in the validation results. So this is this is our final estimated suspended sediment data from the satellite images, means for inland waters like Terra region mapping. So this is our paper we recently published in RSC, remote sensing of environment. So there are a lot of others, because we need to collect data from different people. So one thing I learned from other labs. So what I learned from other lab is collaboration is important. So So when we are going to solve some problem, we need small data. If we everything we can't depend from the same lab. So we have to collaborate with our friends from other country. So there are a lot of country people are involved in this picture: South Korea, USA, New Zealand, Vietnam, Estonia, Japan. So all these people. So I collected data from all the people. I sent mail, and they send data. They believe us. They believe me, and they send the data. We used the data, and we got some good team. And now we are working with us with our with the whole team. I'm very glad to tell that. So then, so currently I am working with a geo sensing and imaging consultancy. Now this is my small startup, and so currently we are working in automatic object detection through machine learning using Python programming. Then another work is going on in artificial intelligence based machines. That also Python programming, satellite image processing based on which is used for which to provide the satellite products after removing the atmospheric noise or aerosol noise like that. So that's coming with that also Python only. So another for agriculture purpose application of satellite images for land use and land cover, and another is like application development for iOS and Android platform. These things are used for this app for platform is mainly we are applying for the real time weather forecasting. So we are planning to propose this one maybe soon. So right now we make a baby step, so we are slowly moving into the next step, and next proposal, writing proposal. We got one project in the artificial intelligence based machine. So yeah, also if anyone knows Python with machine learning purpose, please contact me. We have some opening also there. So you can contact me, or you can send email to my this is my email ID and phone number. So thanks for all for sitting and hearing my presentation. So remote sensing is highly useful in future, means in near future, for highly useful for agriculture purpose. So we have a lot of satellites are coming in nearby in 2021 and 2022. We will get some 10 to 5 satellites, 5 to 7 satellites we will get in 22. So we can easily monitor the agriculture purpose and inland water changes in the water column, like the chlorophyll or sediments. So which is useful for the people who is living surrounding by, so for drinking purpose or industrial purpose anyway. So thank you so much for sitting with me.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for giving us a nice lecture on the applications of the ocean related sensors, such as color missions or Sentinel 2A and 2B. And you also gave us a short and brief discussion on atmospheric correction, radiometric correction, and the field measurements of certain parameters as well. So I'm sure that all these are definitely very useful to the participants that are here. And right now we will just move on to a short discussion session where we can have few questions from the audience. Can we have some audience? And if you have any doubts related to the session, please go on. Dr. Sundrabalan is available. Yes, please. Any questions from the audience? There's any question?
I think the mics are muted, so that may be the problem for them.
Uh, I think no, sir. They can unmute, and provided if they hear me, they can.
Okay.
Dear participants, any questions to the speaker of the day to clarify your doubts? Sir, I think I'll just start off with my doubt.
Okay.
I have seen you using the field measurements. Have you worked on salinity measurements of these ocean color measurements, and how does it correlate with the real-time saline measurements? I'm not sure if you have worked on. Since I've seen one of your authors is Wesley Moses, who is also working on, I think, on eutrophication. So I was just, you know, I just have a doubt if you have worked on salinity measurements.
So yeah, thanks. You mentioned Wesley Moses. He is very close to my friend, and we met several times. So like every monthly, once or twice, we will meet. Last 5 years, so he's very close friend to me. And another one, salinity. Salinity is like we measured the salinity,
Yes, sir.
but we didn't use it for modeling purpose because our motive is different for environmental purpose. Salinity also environmental purpose only. So our major parameter is chlorophyll and sediment. So currently there is some we are planning to add the salinity because the chlorophyll the parameters are varying slightly with the salinity parameters. So we are planning to do that also, include that salinity parameter in the chlorophyll model. Thanks for a question. Good question.
Thank you, sir. Participants, any other questions from the participant sides? Anyone else? So our program director, Dr. Nidhi Dasan, sir is available. Sir, would you want to give us a few words about the session, so that kindly unmute and then talk, sir, so that we will just know what is your perception of this talk. Am I audible, sir?
Ask him to unmute, madam. Ask him to unmute.
So you need to unmute to.
Sir, you have to unmute, sir. No, you choose the unmute. Unmute. It is professor.
I think sir is not able to get us.
Yeah.
Madam.
Yeah. Now only they have unmuted.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Professor, it is really an interesting session to have. I hope that many would have got benefited from this.
Okay.
Thank you for sparing your time, and thank you for being with us, sir.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Yes,
sir. Thank you so much.
sir. So yeah, if there are no more questions from the audience side, I, on behalf of Institute of Civil Engineering, on behalf of my program director, would like to thank, first of all, the Institute of Civil Engineering and the faculty members of the institute who have actively helped me, and the coordination that is rendered by all of the faculty members to conduct this webinar. I also thank the coordinator of this program, Dr. Tolga Pinse, who is kindly had enough time and friendship with Dr. Sundarabalan to have him here with us. I also thank Dr. Sundarabalan for having spared your time. I'm sure that you will have a busy schedule with your work, and it's really awesome to see all your projects, which is based on machine learning and deep learning and artificial intelligence. Thank you, Dr. Radhika Bhaskar ma'am and Dr. Hariharan for kindly providing us with all the necessary Zoom platform and the Facebook Live sessions. So thank you all the participants who have been here, and looking forward to meet you in another session shortly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.